Jaguars.com coverage of the 2023 NFL Draft. Well, I guess it's already underway with Daniel Jeremiah joining us now, and here we are a little over a week away, DJ. This is the biggest week of the year for you. How excited are you for it to finally be here?
I'm glad it's finally here. I feel like every year it's the same thing. I feel like the combine sneaks up on me, and then the draft takes forever. So it's a thrill to have it finally here. Get to Kansas City, get this thing cranked up.
NFL draft coverage on NFL Network, April 27, 28, and 29. The Jaguars are basking in the glow of an AFC wildcard playoff win over the Chargers, and of course a loss in the divisional round to the Chiefs. That means they have the 24th pick. Not number one anymore. That's the good step in the right direction. Let's keep it this way. But as a GM and with the scouting staff in support of him, the coaching staff alongside, how difficult is it to prepare for all the scenarios that come at 24 in the draft?
Well, I think it's not as different as maybe people would think. I mean, obviously 1-1 is different. I mean, that's a different deal. But the difference between picking 10 and picking in the mid-20s, I don't think is that great in a year like this one specifically. But also, usually who's going to go, in those top picks, those names that are going to be gone at that point in time. And I'm sure, the Jags can eliminate probably 8 to 10 guys that they're fairly certain are going to be gone, and they can narrow their focus for that first round pick on 10 to 15 names. So, whether or not they were picking 10 or picking in the mid 20s, I think the preparation is very similar, and they've probably locked in. And at this point in time, I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing, but they probably narrowed that down to 3 or 4 guys. They feel pretty good about getting one of them. And maybe there's somebody that's within their culture and their belief system that they're high enough on that they would even consider maybe trying to move up a little bit to get.
Daniel Jeremiah with us, and we know Trent Baalke's history. He's not afraid to move around in drafts that he has controlled, both in San Francisco and, of course, now in Jacksonville. With the Jaguars, 3 drafts in his 2 drafts in control here, and a bunch of those in San Francisco, of course. But they've got the draft equity to do some moving. There's 3 sixth-round picks. I don't know how much that can equate for a first-round move, though, right?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting draft. It just kind of depends on what you're targeting, and you can find the ammunition, be it in this year's haul or in next year's group. If you want to find the picks to move up, he's got the ammunition to go ahead and get that accomplished. So, to me, the only position that would make sense probably on a move up, it would be the tackle position, or if they're looking offensive line, that would be an area you could look to. But outside of that, I mean, corners, there's depth. Edge rushers, there's depth. There's a lot of different areas they could go, just sitting and picking where they are.
DJ, let's get into some of these position groups, and you mentioned the offensive line. Let's start off with the idea of tackle. Of course, Jawan Taylor is in Kansas City and left in free agency, so they got Walker Little, who can play there. Cam Robinson's on the left side. They just got Josh Wells as the swing tackle. He's an older player now, so that could be a position of need down the line here for this team. So, at 24, or if they move up, a guy like Darnell Wright of Tennessee, is he a guy you could see that deep?
Well, yeah, I don't think he'll get there. He's a really good player on tape this year specifically. If you look at him the year before, he was a little up and down. This year was very consistent start to finish. I mean, that to me is going to come down to their belief in Walker Little and how high they are inside the building there, of what he's going to continue to grow into and be as he's given that opportunity. But I think this draft is unique in that we've got some guys that have some inside-outside versatility and flexibility. If you're asking me, you always look at these different scenarios and say, okay, who's like a wild card player that nobody's talking about that you could see sneak into the first round? Matthew Bergeron to me is an interesting one. Somebody who can play tackle, can play guard. I know teams are trying to find that flexibility. Now, when you deal with a 17-game season, you're going to have guys in and out of the lineup. To have guys that can, play inside, can play outside, man, there's a lot of value there at this point in time. So, I go through the Jags and look at, where the priority would be. I still think corner is going to be sky high. You look at defensive tackle, an area they could address. And then, looking at, continue to add more weapons. I think all these teams in the AFC, and you saw it up close last year in the playoffs. Like, you can't have enough firepower when you've got the kind of the Patrick Mahomes, the ghost of Patrick Mahomes out there, knowing what it's going to take to knock them off in the postseason. If you've got a really good offense, you still want more.
Everybody's aiming for 30 points per game. That's what it's going to take. That was the league high, of course, last season. Daniel Jeremiah with us, NFL Network. Let's touch on some of those corners now, though. I know you mentioned firepower, but this is a group in Jacksonville that doesn't have Shaq Griffin anymore. He was banged up last season. Now he's gone. Darius Williams, good player, 30 years of age, though, now, and moved outside towards the end of the season, played a little better there. We'll see what his future in the long term holds, and they love Tyson Campbell. So the last mock I think you had, I know there's so many mocks out there, DJ, but the last one you had, I think, had Deonte Banks from Maryland to the Jaguars. Yeah. What kind of player is he, and what else could be in play there for a cornerback?
Yeah, I mean, Banks is height, weight, speed. He's big. He's physical. He's somebody that can play in a variety of techniques. You want to let him get up in your face, he can do that. He can play press man. He's pretty fluid and smooth and off coverage. So he's a really, really good football player, and I think that's about the range of where he goes. I think he ends up going in the 20s when it's all said and done. Emmanuel Forbes is kind of a wild card just because of the size. His tape is outstanding, come out of Mississippi State. So, you look what he can bring from a playmaking standpoint. He's got 6 career pick sixes, has been talked about a bunch. But this guy's as good a playmaking corner as we've seen. So if you're at Jacksonville, you anticipate this offense being dynamic and being explosive, and you want to play with the lead, somebody that can go get the football. Forbes would probably even be a better fit from that standpoint if you're going to compare those two guys. Really, really good football players. But I actually really like the fit with Forbes there as well.
Daniel Jeremiah with us. All right, let's get to the offensive side now. The Jaguars spent so much free agency money last year at the wide receiver position and added some fantastic talent there, of course, around Trevor Lawrence. They've got Evan Ingram back as a franchise tag tight end. But the other options at tight end are not back on this roster. So is that an option at 24, or can you find that deeper in the draft? And, we know the history of the head coach around here and his tight end positions. He likes to use multiple tight ends, but there's a lot of weaponry on the field right now on offense.
Yeah, they've got a lot of firepower, but again, I talk to these teams every day, and even teams, you'd look at them and say, okay, they got to go defense here. They're in pretty good shape offensively. It's just with the way the rules are right now, and the way the league's set up, and with all the quarterbacks, particularly in the AFC, you can't have enough firepower. So adding another tight end, I think, would be a fun mix to what they already have in place right there. And you say, okay, well, if you wanted to complement the Evan Ingram, I think that's probably more of a Michael Mayer type. Who can be your inline tight end, who's really good in the run game, somebody who's reliable and dependable in the passing game, maybe not super dynamic, but somebody who's going to be a nice safety valve for your quarterback, good third down guy, good red zone guy. But more than anything else, I think he's an asset in the run game. So that would be the complementary player to Evan Ingram for me. I like Dalton Kincaid as the best one in the draft. I think he's probably gone by the time the Jags get on the clock. But that's, he might be a little bit more of a duplicate of Evan Ingram. Is going to be kind of more of your athletic, your move tight end. So if you're looking to kind of build out that basketball team and have the different skill sets, I'd actually say Mayer from Notre Dame would be an interesting fit there.
Daniel Jeremiah with us, NFL Network. Last final thought with you here, DJ, ahead of this draft. And let's go to the top of the draft. And there are a lot of AFC South teams that have a lot of picks in the top half of the first round of this draft. So how much chaos could we see in the top 5, especially? Houston at number 2 seems to have the pick that could change a lot of things down the line.
Yeah, they're in the control seat right now because we all expect that Bryce Young's going to be the first pick of the Carolina Panthers. We've been saying that for a while. So now it starts at 2. Long assumed it'd be a quarterback. Now, C.J. Stroud was the presumed pick for a long time that those two guys would go 1 and 2. As we get closer here, just a little over a week away, it looks like, gosh, there's a lot of smoke for them not going in that direction and them looking either to get out or take a defensive player. Which the fascinating angle to that to me is not only you're not taking a quarterback, you're kind of gift wrapping him to a team in the division with the Indianapolis Colts. But, by all accounts, it seems to be legitimate, and that seems to be the way that they're leaning. So that shakes the draft up right away. And now you get a chance where I think you see one of these quarterbacks, maybe even two of them, start to slide a little bit. And if that takes place, now you start looking at Chicago at 9, Philly at 10 as being, in a pretty advantageous position ahead of another AFC South team and the Tennessee Titans at 11, who a lot of people have pegged as a quarterback team. So I think that's a golden opportunity for Chicago and Philadelphia to auction off that pick to whoever might want to come up and get it.
This is the time of year, though, where there's smoke, there's fire, or maybe it's just a screen. You never know. I mean, you just don't know even a week out. DJ, great to see you, and good luck to you next week on the draft coverage.
I appreciate you, buddy. Great to catch up.